Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Stories Written by a Current Prisoner. Today's episode is completely different from what you guys are used to. It's a sad topic, and I want to go ahead and thank you, Khorry, from the bottom of my heart for being able to open up and share, what this has done to you mentally and emotionally. I can only imagine what you have been through, but I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
No, obviously, we're going to go ahead and talk about your dad. Can you go ahead and tell the public his name and who he is?
My father, his name is Kevin Johnson, and he was a Missouri inmate at the Department of Corrections for 17 years. He committed a really bad crime when he was 19 years old, and basically what he did was he killed an officer, and yeah, he was executed in November of 2022. I don't too much remember my dad like when I was younger because he got locked up and sentenced and everything when I was around like 2 years old. So I was really, really young and I don't remember him other than the videos that he recorded and I've seen later on in life. But yeah, I don't really have any early memories of him as a child other than going to visit him in jail.
What was your relationship with him like, though? And how often did you see him?
Me and my dad, we had a really good relationship. My mother, she passed when I was 4 years old. She was killed. And so since then, it's like my dad, he's been my only parent. So me and him have a really, really close relationship. And yeah, he was a really good dad, and he would stay on top of everything like normal dads would, and like want to get in all my business, like any father would want to be in their daughter's business. But yeah, so.
Did you feel cheated in life growing up? Did you feel like, damn, everything that has happened, you lost both your parents? Were you kind of jealous of other people, or felt some type of way just because they had their parents?
Well, yeah, I still had like family members who were there for me, so I didn't really feel cheated out of life until I got older. Like, I graduated when I was 17 years old, and I remember having a conversation with my dad to where I started crying and felt like really depressed at a time because I felt like everyone's parents were congratulating them and being able to see them walk the stage and everything, but my parents weren't able to. So, yeah, I had like a little moment where I was like sad and depressed, but I never felt cheated out of life because there's people in way worse situations than me, and like I said, I still have family who like took me in and took care of me all these years. So, yeah.
Did you ever in a million years think that she would be executed? And I only say this because obviously we know that there's so many postponements, there's so many rearrangements. It's always happened like that.
I always, knew that he was on death row, but I didn't really understand it until I got older. So I was always, thinking, oh, maybe he was just going to do his 25 years to life, and then he would just get out on, good behavior or something, or, parole or anything. But, yeah, as I started learning about the system and how the law works and all that stuff, I was like, there's a chance that he could still get out, but it's not looking so good. But then when we started getting the public's attention and everyone started coming to my dad's defense and really looking into his case, and there's other people outsiders looking in who are saying their input or whatever, I thought that he had a chance. Even up to his final moments, I thought that he had a chance because they were supposed to start administering the drugs at 6 p.m., but they didn't start till about 7:30 p.m. So, it was still I was just holding on to that little piece of hope. But, yeah, unfortunately, he was executed.
What were those last few days like? And honestly, can you tell that this was affecting him mentally and emotionally, that he was depressed or anything like that?
So the type of person my dad is, he has a really strong mind, and he's not the type of person to show his weakness or like his emotions. Like you have to really pull it out of him for him to show it. And basically the last couple of days it was like I could tell he was stressed because he's my dad and we just have that relationship where I know something is wrong with him. But like to anyone else he would seem like he's so strong, but like to me I could really tell that like it was messing with him and that he was starting to get sad and stuff like that. But then the last 2 days I actually went to go visit him at Bonterre. So it was like we had our moments where we cried and we talked, and he just felt so bad. He felt like he was a bad parent. He said that he failed me as a father because he has to leave me here by myself with no guidance. So he was just really like just stressed out about the fact that he was leaving behind his daughter and now his grandson. But he wasn't really like afraid of death or anything. Like he was okay with dying. He was never scared of dying or anything like that. It was just the fact that he had to leave me behind with no parents, and then I just have our baby. I was still like, a new mom at the time. During this time, my son was only 2 months, so yeah, I had a lot of stress on me, and he didn't really like that. He felt like he failed me as a father because he put me through that.
If you don't mind me asking, what was that last day like, and what was the last conversation like?
Okay, so the last day, it was I was told that he wanted me to visit him again, and so I went up there to the prison, and it was like heavy police force. Like they were in like black camo, riding around in vans, like with really big guns out and stuff like that. So it was like it just told me, like in my head, I'm like, okay, this is serious. Like it's really getting to that time. So then I went back and I got in the visiting booth, and they locked the doors or whatever, and my dad came out and with the shackles, and I just could tell that he was like really stressed out. So we were talking, and Dr. Stanfield, who is my mentor, and she was his principal in elementary school. We've connected over the years, and we just like are really close. She was with me as well as my son. So yeah, we were all in the visiting booth, and we were talking. We were trying to create like moments where we could laugh. But then it got serious, and my dad, I never seen him cry. In all my 19 years, I never seen my dad cry. So he broke down and he started crying, and he was like, I just don't want to leave you here by yourself. And then he felt me as a father, and then I was like, I would just started crying. It was like, I'm forever grateful for you, like you did beyond what any father would do who's incarcerated. Like most people who are incarcerated aren't that active dad figure in their child's life, but he was. So I was trying to like lift his spirits by telling him how good of a dad he was. So Dr. Stanfield, she was there. She was kind of trying to light up the moment a little bit, and then it came time for the visitation to be over, because I think it was like over at 11 a.m. maybe. And yeah, so they told us we had to leave, and then I remember walking out the visiting booth, but he could still see me. And, yeah, I was walking away, and then Dr. Stanfield is like, turn around and smile at your dad, because this might be the last time that you get to see him, and we just want to leave him with something to, like, hold on to that could, boost his spirit a little bit. So I was, like, crying, and I'm like, I don't really want to. And she's like, I'm telling you, you need to do this. Like, you need to do this. So I turned around, and I waved, and that was my last goodbye.
When did you find out that this had actually happened?
That he was executed?
Yes.
So we were at his execution watch. So basically we were all gathered outside the prison. And like I said, they were supposed to start the execution at 6 p.m., but they hadn't started like the execution process yet. So we were just all outside, like, what's going on? I'm talking to his attorneys, like, people are singing, people are crying, people are yelling. There was someone who lived next to the prison. They had their dogs outside. So the dogs were barking. It was cold outside because it was like the end of November. And so it was just a lot going on. And then it just like everything just got really quiet. And I walked up to his attorneys, and I'm like, so what happened? And they were like, he died at 7:40 p.m. And at that point, when she told me that he died at 7:40 p.m., the wind just got really, really strong. Like, it was the craziest thing ever. The wind got so strong. And then I got a phone call from my uncle who just recently left the prison because he was up there for the execution watch. He called me. He's like, is everything okay down there? We're on the road, and the wind just got really, really strong over here. I'm like, I feel like that's my dad. Like, he's leaving, and they told me that he died at 7:40, and then from that exact point, it just got, like, the wind just got so strong, like his presence was there. So that's how I found out that he was executed.
What did you proceed to do? Where did you go?
I'm a strong person. Well, at least I try to be a strong person. So instead of me just crying or like balling up or showing like my emotions and all that stuff, I waited for my uncle and my aunt and Dr. Stanfield to come out of the execution chamber. And I just immediately gave my family a hug. Like, we were all just hugging each other and being strong for each other. Like, I didn't cry. I never shed a tear up until the funeral when I was reading my speech at the funeral. So I was just being strong for my family and just trying to be there for them. And just, I was really like in disbelief. Like, I was in denial. Like, I still to this day, I really don't feel like my dad is gone until like I go to like JPay and I go to send him a picture of my son, and I'm like, oh wait, I can't do that because he's gone. But yeah, that's how that day went, and that's how I kind of dealt with it. Okay, so I filed a lawsuit to be able to watch my dad's execution, but my execution, for me to be able to watch, it was denied. So my dad's sister and my dad's brother, they both went into the execution chamber, and then his attorney and Dr. Stanfield, and then his spiritual advisor, Reverend Gray, he was there. So basically, from what they told me, Reverend Gray was actually like next to the gurney holding my dad's hand, talking to him the whole time, and he was woke and he was strapped down to the gurney. And so they pulled the curtains back, and on the outside of the execution chamber, it was my family and Dr. Stanfield and the attorney. They were sitting there watching. And they said that my dad saw them and kind of smiled or whatever. And then they would close the curtain and administer the drugs. And then they would open the other side of the curtain so that the McEntee family, or the victim's family, I would say, they could be able to see what's going on. And as well as, I believe the prosecutor was there. So he goes to all his executions that he gave out. So they saw like the drugs going into him, I'm assuming, from what people told me. And then once it was in, they will open the curtain again to the family side, and it takes about like 5 to 7 minutes for the drugs to actually work and to actually kill someone. So they show it one last time, and that was pretty much it. The last thing that Reverend Gray told me was that my dad said he's ready to go meet his brother again. So after that, he kind of just like not fell out, but like, just faded out.
How has this affected you mentally and emotionally? What were those next few days, like weeks, and how are you feeling today?
So the way that it affected me immediately was I was really like sad at the fact that I wasn't able to be there in his final moments, like how I wanted to, because it was just like the image that I have in my head, and the last moment that I have in my head of me seeing my dad alive is him crying and telling me how bad of a father he is. So that kind of like stuck with me. I'd rather see him actually on a gurney dying than see him crying and telling me how much of a bad father he is and how much he's failed me. So that kind of like just haunted me these last 6 months, and it's just been on my mind heavy. But at first it was like I said, I was in denial, so I didn't really want to think that he was gone until I tried to like pull out a video and send it to him, but his inmate number was no longer on Securus or JPay anymore. But over the last couple of months, I had a lot going on. Like, I've been mistreated by police because of who I am, and also like my personal property stuff has been like vandalized, and then just a whole lot of other stuff going on in my life because of like who my dad was and who I am. So that's also been going on. And then I find myself getting sad sometimes, like when I look at a picture too long of him, or like when I'm just really deep thinking about him, or just like when I really miss him, and it just sneaks up on me, and it's just like I sit there and I cry for nothing, and then I look at my son and I just smile. My son, he was literally just like my dad, like everybody says it. So it's like he kind of brings me that peace, and that, yeah, that's something that I need to be okay. So yeah, that's how it's been over the past 6 months. But really, I've been taking my dad's story and turning it into something positive. Like, I've been on podcasts, and I've published his last book for him, which is called Journey to the Gurney. It's about his last 90-something days living, and it was basically like a little journal that he would just write out each day what happened that day, the emotions he was going through, the people that he talked to, and just like how he found out about his execution date being set, and how they took him from gen pop to solitary confinement once he got his execution date. So it's just all that in his book. So I've been I published that book, and I've been trying to sell it, and just get my dad's story out there. So yeah.
How can we purchase this book? Wow. I can
so
only imagine it must be I can only imagine it must be a fascinating read.
Yeah, so his last 3 books that he wrote is called Leaving a Legacy, and the first book is called Cop Killer. That's about his life story growing up, and then all up into the moments where he killed a cop, and like what happened to his brother that day and everything like that. So that book is called Cop Killer. The second book is called State Property, and that's about his stay in prison and jail, and what it was like for him, and the different things he went through in jail, and like this, like how I've grown up, and like different stuff he had to deal with me growing up in jail, prison, because he was in prison, not jail. But the last book is called Journey to the Gurney, and that's about his last days living. So all 3 of these books is called Leaving a Legacy, and you can purchase them on Amazon under J.K. Tatum. And then, like I said, Leaving a Legacy, you just type that up, and all of the books will pop up. And yeah, so that's how you can purchase.
You're obviously against the death penalty, correct?
Yeah, like I recently just reached out to the man who killed my mother, and I was just like telling people, like, even though this man took my mother away from me and made my life literally a living hell, I would never wish the death penalty on him or anybody. Like, I just feel like we are no person, and we're in no position to play God to anybody and dictate someone's fate. Like, I feel like that's just wrong. So I'm against it completely, like, even towards the man that killed my mom. And yeah. So yeah, that's just how I feel completely overall.
Are you in contact with any other people who have been executed or are actually going to be set to be executed?
Yes, I went to all of the executions after my dad. So like Amber, I think her last name was McCollin or something like that. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. But Amber, who was executed by the state of Missouri, and then Leonard Taylor, who goes by Raheem. I was there for his execution watch. And yeah, so I really grew close to Raheem's daughter, because we both kind of like went through we did go through the same thing. Both of our fathers were executed. We even took a trip up there when they were alive to like go visit them together. So I've grown closer to her, and like, yeah, I found a friend in her, because she can relate to what I go through. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so sorry, and, I really feel for you, but they aren't able to understand how this really feels, and they haven't walked in my shoes, and their dad hasn't been executed, but hers has, so she can relate to me, and it's like, yeah, it's a really special connection there.
You've actually watched this? Like, you've actually sat in one of those things and actually sat there and watched?
Well, in the state of Missouri, you have to be 21 to watch an execution, so I wasn't able to watch. That's why my lawsuit got denied in my dad's case. But what I do is an execution watch. So basically, I'm outside the jail, like I was for my dad's execution, outside the jail, and basically just praying and singing and just, saying things that will make the, moment just better. And, just pray for not the victims, but the inmates' family, and all that stuff, and just, just stuff like that. That's what we do outside the jail at an execution watch.
I can imagine that this has affected and devastated you tremendously. But besides you, in your father's death, who else has been affected by this?
People all across the world have texted me and told me how my dad's story impacted them, or like, they just really felt like my dad was a family member or something, and like this was someone they needed to save, because I feel like he didn't deserve what he got, and stuff like that. So it's people who've been texting me or talking to me all over and just really have gone through it because of the death of my father. But a person who I would say was really affected would have to be my dad's siblings, all of his siblings, because we're all close. So like my family is really close, and yeah, it feels weird not with him not being here. So everyone is taking it the best they can, but you can tell like the siblings is really hitting them hard. He wasn't really worried about a last meal as well as he wasn't worried about a last statement. The last thing that I got from him, which was the day after his execution, November 30th, I got a 5-page letter from him, and it was basically like he wanted me to stay on my stuff, and that he had things still lined up for me, and he had goals for me to still reach even though he's not here. He still like set goals that I needed to meet. And he also told me like how much he loved me, and also how he felt like my son was his redemption. Like my son is everything that he could have been, or like, just stuff like that. And then also he's telling me how to be a gentle parent, like love your child. That's the message that he wanted to get across. Love your child, because, their childhood can affect how they grow up. And my dad, his mom was addicted to crack cocaine when he was a baby. So, his life has been difficult. He's been moved from foster home to foster home. He's been in and out of the system. And then, every person who took him in as a foster kid, they basically beat on him. So he was just like, no one loved him. So the message that he wanted to get across was love your child, because how you like do stuff in a household, and when the kids go out in the world, they put that stuff out there. So it's like, yeah, just love your child. And gentle parenting, don't abuse your kids. Like, there's ways to get around to your kid other than just beating on them, because that really doesn't do anything. But yeah, so. And then also, I'm sorry to cut you off. Also,
no, go ahead.
Also, he emailed as many people as he can. Like, if people sending me his emails that he sent them, he emailed almost every person that emailed him. He emailed them back and told them something positive, or like left them a special note, or just, something like that. Because he wasn't the type of person who's just like, well, my life is over, I'm just going to give up. He fought to the end, and he wanted his story out there, and he wanted to, connect with people, and just, also gain a support system for me after his death. He wanted to make sure I was okay, and that I would have people around who aren't fake, or who I could fall on if I needed a shoulder to cry on or anything like that.
What would you like the world to know about your father?
That his story didn't end when he got executed. Now it's time for me to step up and get his name out there. But what I would want them to know about him specifically is that he was a loving man, and like, as bad as the crime was that he committed, he was truly remorseful and sorry about what he did. And he never really meant to hurt anyone. It was just something that happened.
Did you actually ever get in contact with the victim's family? Like, did you ever come across them or meet them in those last few days?
I did not, because the victim's family and my family, I wouldn't do anything like that, because the victim's family has been, I don't even know how to say it, but I'm not going to say rude, but it's almost that. Like, they tried to make it out to where we were saying how the officer that my dad killed was just a bad man. That's not what we were saying, but, you know, there was stuff that he did and, like, how he provoked people and stuff like that we were trying to say, but it was like the victim's family and my family, it was like we're bumping heads. And then, you know, after my dad's execution or whatever, the officer's wife or ex-wife, she went on the news and was basically like, I waited 17 years for this justice and it's finally been served and all of this other stuff. So it's like I would never just reach out to them. Also, when my mother was killed, they went past my house and flicked my grandparents off. So, you know, it's always been like tension between the different families, my family and then also the victim's family. So no, I wouldn't reach out or talk to them.
I can only imagine how you must have felt when you seen that on TV.
Yeah, I was really like, I'm gonna just say I was really blindsided by it because the officer's ex-wife, she was like 2 steps away from filing for divorce from this man, and also he was beating on her and stuff like that. So it's just like it was a lot. And then it was like, okay, she's going on here and she's saying she waited so long for this, but around the time that he was murdered, she was doing all this other stuff and, you know, about to divorce him and getting beat on. So it's just like I was blindsided by it. Like, I didn't expect her to do that. Like, maybe her kids, but not her.
You know, I want to thank you so much, Khorry, for sharing your perspective on how this has affected you and how much this has changed you. Is there anything else that you would like to say?
No, I think that's pretty much it. But thank you for having me. Like I said earlier, I really appreciate it.
I really sincerely appreciate you so much for opening up. I can only imagine how this has affected you even till today. You know, we're here for you, and stay strong. Keep your head up, okay?
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much.